Today I'm going to be talking all about the Stourbridge Lion and the history of the Stourbridge Lion and why it is so important to the Black Country. So Stourbridge is the birthplace of America's commercial railroads, and the Stourbridge Lion was built in 1829. It was built in Stourbridge and it was manufactured by Foster Rastrick and Company. It cost £2,915 to manufacture and it weighed 8 tonnes. So why is it named the Stourbridge Lion? So in the local area, in Stourbridge and in the Black Country, the majority of people have heard of the Stourbridge Lion. So the reason it was named the Stourbridge Lion is it takes its name from the lion that was painted on the front of the boiler, and that's where it gets the name from. The locomotive was actually obtained by Delaware and Hudson Canal Company, who are also known as D&H. In May 1829, the Stourbridge Lion was shipped to New York, and here it was tested and it was raised on blocks. The Hudson Canal Company did send a deputy engineer to England in 1828, and that engineer was Horatio Allen. Now, Horatio Allen was instructed to place orders for 4 steam locomotives if these engines were suitable for what they needed for their requirements. The company had a particular use, and he was instructed to place the orders if they were suitable for this. When Horatio got to England, he first went to Newcastle, where he met the Stephenson family. The Stephenson family at that point in time was producing an engine for the Manchester and Liverpool Railway. Horatio did order an engine from them. When he was finished in Newcastle, he travelled down to Stourbridge, which is in the Black Country in England. In Stourbridge, he met an engineer called John Rastrick. Now, John Rastrick took out a patent for his steam engine, for his steam locomotive, in 1814, and he founded the firm Foster Rastrick and Company to be able to produce these steam locomotives. At this point, Horatio ordered 3 steam locomotives from Foster Rastrick and Company from Stourbridge, and within those 3 locomotives was the Stourbridge Lion. Once these steam engines were manufactured, they were taken to America, and with those 4 steam locomotives was the Stourbridge Lion. Now, the Stourbridge Lion arrived in Honsdale in July of 1829. When it arrived here, there were some tests that they had to do. They had to trial it on the railroad that they've manufactured over in America. Over in America, there were 3 miles of the wooden railway track that was laid. The Stourbridge Lion was going to sit on that and they were going to test it. Now, where this railroad was, where this wooden track was, it crossed the Locomotive River. Please do excuse me for pronunciations. And it was on a trestle bridge and it was 30 feet in height. The Stourbridge Lion train run took place on the 8th of August 1829. There were crowds of people that gathered to watch this event. There were some speculation at the time that the train wouldn't be successful, that it wouldn't run on the tracks, but the crowds gathered to watch this. Now, Horatio Allen got onto the Stourbridge Lion, and his plan was to be on the Stourbridge Lion just to make sure it does go, see what it was like. Nobody else at this point wanted to get onto the train because there were fears around it not being safe, so it put people off. Now, once the Stourbridge Lion was up and running, it did make its journey on this 3-mile wooden track. It crossed the bridge and disappeared out of sight. Not long after, the crowds of people could see in the distance the Stourbridge Lion returning. It was making its way back. It was travelling backwards as expected for the steam locomotive, and Horatio Allen was on board and he was safe. The train was safe, the wooden railway was safe. This was a success and it was a major turning point in history, not just for Stourbridge, for the Black Country, but for America as well. There was also another trial not long after this. However, the wooden railway was deemed to not be safe enough. It wasn't strong enough to hold the structure of the Stourbridge Lion. So initially it was safe enough for that run, but for the long-term use and for the continuous use of the train, it wouldn't be safe enough. The Stourbridge Lion was then put into storage at Honsdale and it stayed there till 1849. In 1849, the Stourbridge Lion was removed into the workshop at Carbondale, Pennsylvania. The boiler of the Stourbridge Lion was removed and put into use. There were other parts of the train that were removed and separated. Some of these were sadly lost at this point. In 1889, another firm had the boiler and they reconstructed the locomotive, and this took place at the Smithsonian Institution. The Stourbridge Lion stood at the Hall of Transport for many years. A little bit later on, the Delaware and Hudson Railroad Company did build a full-size replica of the Stourbridge Lion, and this was based on the original plans of the Stourbridge Lion of the locomotive. The full-size replica of the Stourbridge Lion is on display at the B&O Railroad Museum, and this is in Baltimore. And it is actually on loan from the Smithsonian Institute from Washington, D.C. Now, if we come all the way back to Stourbridge, because we've been focusing a lot on America, we come back to Stourbridge, come back to the Black Country in England. I'm going to talk a little bit about the factory it was manufactured in and a little bit about Stourbridge. So the old foundry where the Stourbridge Lion was manufactured is Stourbridge Ironworks. And there is a stretch of canal in Stourbridge that has this historic building, the historic ironworks, just behind it. So Foster Rastrick Ironworks is just situated behind the canal. This has some significant history and it was a very important factory in the 19th century. Now, the ironworks included the historical crane base that was used to lift the Stourbridge Lion locomotive onto the narrowboats. And from here, shipments of raw material such as iron ore and coal were brought into the factory. Iron bars and rods were transported into the market. And when the factory was no longer in use, this building stood derelict effectively. It stood empty, it stood on its own for a very long time. There was a lot of graffiti, a lot of neglect that was happening to the building, and a building with such significance, it was really sad to see this happen. However, in November 2012, the building was actually saved and a huge restoration project was carried out. Locals will know about this, and I will go on to talk about this in a little bit more detail. So this building has been transformed into a medical centre. The medical centre includes a doctor's surgery and a dentist, and it is huge. It has taken its name from the Stourbridge Lion, so it is called Lion Health. So you've got the Lion Health Medical Centre, the Lion Health Doctor Surgery, and the Lion Health Dentist just next door. The building has been restored, which is fantastic. Now, the building itself is a Grade 2 listed building, so it's very important to keep that. It's important to our history, it's important to our heritage, so to keep the building is fantastic. It took many years of campaigning to be able to restore it. And like I say, there was a lot of vandalism and a lot of neglect to the building. So there was a lot of campaigning and a lot of investment into this building to get it up to the standard it is today. The Lion Health Centre did open on the 11th of October 2014. Now, this building reflects a lot of history, especially in Stourbridge in the Black Country. And the heritage of that site is reflected in the building. The building itself does retain its original iron roof, and this would have been the largest in the world when it was first bought in 1820. Now, with this restoration project and with it now being a fully functional building and it's kept the little touches that it had and that historical importance, it saved a Grade 2 listed building, and this building has a lot of national historic importance. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the firm Foster Rastrick and Company. So who was this company? They manufactured the Stourbridge Lion, but who were they? So James Foster was an ironmaster and John Urpeth Rastrick was an engineer. They became partners in 1816 and formed the company Foster Rastrick and Company in 1819. This company was well known for its manufacturing. So the company produced steam engines, the Stourbridge Lion being one of the locomotives they produced. They also manufactured proving machines for chain cables, saws, mills and boilers. They also manufactured structural components for buildings, bridges and gasworks. Foster Rastrick and Company only built 4 steam locomotives, one of these being the Stourbridge Lion. 3 of those went to America. The Stourbridge Lion is included in that. And one of their steam locomotives went to Kingswinford Railway in the Black Country. The Aganoria was a steam locomotive that went to Kingswinford, and this was built for service on the Earl of Dudley's Shut End Colliery Railway in Kingswinford. And the Stourbridge Lion that we have previously talked about was the steam locomotive that went over to America. That's the story of the Stourbridge Lion. I am going to be talking about the Newcomen engine on Sunday, so hit that subscribe button and I'll see you then.